Hello, everybody, and welcome to Drop In, Drop Out, a show where a mix of 7 gamers get together to talk about all things video games. This week, we're talking about the scariest Xbox stories of 2025. And let me tell you, this will be our most horrifying episode for October. That's for sure, because I am joined by 2 other absolutely certified freakos today, all dressed up for Halloween. If you're listening to the audio version, I am joined by Jerica of JK Games. Jerica, how are you?
I am grilled and I'm all mustered up. That's how I am right now. I don't even think I have ketchup on me. I think it's just mustard.
That's okay. Jerica is dressed like a hot dog. And then Josh is also joining us. Josh, this is our first time doing a podcast together, technically.
Yes, I think so.
Oh, I'm here for this historic moment.
A professional environment.
Exactly. We've shot the shit plenty of times, and we know we got a lot of common ground when it comes to video games. But that's for another episode where we rank the hottest Final Fantasy characters or the best first-party Nintendo games. We'll get to all of that in time. But welcome. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you. I'm feeling good. I'm Mario tonight. I usually have some kind of Mario. Honorable mention too. I have this Cappy visor that Jerica, the hot dog herself, she was at E3 when Mario Odyssey was announced, and she brought this Cappy visor back from the Nintendo booth for me. So honorable mention.
Sick.
You know,
very dope. You gotta have Cap. I love Cappy. I think Cappy gets a bad rap.
Yeah. Cappy's
I like a good clippy Cappy. Any object with big googly eyes that's trying to help me figure out how to beat a game or manage my desktop. Big fan.
Right. Yeah. Very helpful. Always an assist, you know. We love to see
Funny
it.
enough, I'm not trying. Sorry, I'm hijacking it for just a second. But speaking of that, because literally I just saw a trailer for a game. I think it's called like web browser or something browser. And it's literally some kind of horror game where Clippy is walking you through like searching the dark web or something. Funny. Sorry. It sort of just made sense for this topic.
No, that is perfect.
I'm done now. I really want to play it though.
I am dressed up like Shrek, as you can imagine. So we have 3 different universes coming together here for our Halloween episode because we're recording this on October 29th. 2 days before Halloween. It'll be on podcast services the day before Halloween. Perhaps you're listening on Halloween. If you're doing that, I hope that you're leaving us a review or finding us on another platform or giving that video a fucking upvote, a like, a comment, maybe sharing it with a friend. However you're supporting us, we appreciate it. We have a lot going on in this entire network here. We got a lot of streams coming from me, video essays coming from Cog, all kinds of short form content coming from Josh. We have Spotlight Games, who's doing all kinds of great news coverage every single week. We have JK Games doing their coverage as well as their video game book club, currently on Dispatch, if I am correct.
Yes, playing episode 2 and 3 after this. Really excited, or 3 and 4 after this.
Yeah,
really excited.
Hell yeah, we love this. So a lot to enjoy, and I think this is also a perfect episode because we are running through these scary Xbox stories leading up to today, which is the release of arguably their flagship holiday title, which turned out to be Outer Worlds 2 after all things kind of panned out and got delayed and shifted around. Well, more on that as we get there, but I want to start us off today, and I want to pick your brains. I want to get a baseline here because the problem with this idea, this shtick, right, is that I'm not a big horror guy. I'm not a big scary guy. I don't like terrifying games in that entire genre, which makes October a tough time for me. I love the spirit of Halloween, not the store, the actual spirit of it. I like dressing up and I love the handing out of candy and the whole 9 yards. I'm not like a negative Nancy, like bah humbug of the Halloween variety. Right, exactly. But it's tough for me on content to speak to like Silent Hill or Resident Evil or Alan Wake or anything like that. So it typically is like a lighter time for me. And I was searching for the right way to bring something to the table for this. And I started to think about like what if we did something about like the scariest news stories of the year? And I started kind of thumbing through the old documents and looking through old news stories. And the common theme that I found is that the scariest stories I could find all came from one beloved company, if you will. And it's only picked up steam in these last couple weeks, which is really good because we're going to take things sequentially. So the back half of the show will basically be kind of a roundup of these last few weeks that kind of culminates, spoiler alert, in maybe some of the Halo news that happened since our last episode. So we'll get into all of that. But the risk is it's going to sound really negative if we're just talking about negative stories. So I wanted to talk about with you guys as sort of an icebreaker here, Xbox history, Xbox memories, favorite things about Xbox. So I wanted to toss around first your first experience with Xbox. If you remember it, I'm putting you guys on the spot. I'm going to go first and tell you guys about my history with the original Xbox. Well, you guys can gather your thoughts on your first introduction to whether it was playing at a friend's house or you're getting like an Xbox console, whatever it was. For me, the year was 2001. The month was November, and I had a decision to make: GameCube or Xbox. And if you look behind me, you'll notice a lot of Mario paraphernalia. The decision was quite easy for me. I ended up with a GameCube, and I had no Xbox. I had a PS2 and a GameCube for the beginning of that console generation. And a good friend of mine, we played a lot of video games together, had gone the other direction and went for an Xbox. We kind of planned that too, because we were both big in on games and we knew we couldn't get every single console that we wanted. We figured if he gets the Xbox, if I get the GameCube, then we can play Monkey Ball at my house and we can play Mad Dash Racing at his house and we can have a fucking blast all holiday season. That all changed very rapidly because a couple days after the Xbox came out, I want to say the GameCube came out first, then a couple days later the Xbox came out. PS2 had already been out for months. A couple days after the Xbox came out, I went to his house, Mike, and we sat down. We played a game called Halo, and I played that game for nearly 8 hours that day on Blood Gulch, shooting at each other with that fucking pistol and that assault rifle. And I went home that day, and I think I fucking got down on my knees and put my hands together, and I prayed, and I asked my parents. I said, I made a mistake. I don't want a GameCube. I want a fucking Xbox. I need Halo. And they said, no. And I said, all I want for Hanukkah is Halo. I need an Xbox. I'll give up everything. I don't want any of the stuff that I asked for on my list. Please, just an Xbox. And I was lucky enough, shout out to my parents, to get an Xbox about a month after it came out and got to enjoy one of the strongest launch lineups in video games. I think my initial launch lineup for games that I actually got was, I got Halo, of course. I mentioned Mad Dash Racing, which I was obsessed with at the time, which if you guys don't know what Mad Dash Racing is, it's a nightmarish third-person on-foot racing game a la Sonic R, if you will. Not very good and has aged like absolute milk. But outside of that, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2X, I put a ton of time into as well, which was like a kind of a remaster of Tony Hawk 1 and 2, years before Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 plus 2 would come out on modern consoles. But that's my first time ever with an Xbox. Not bad. Josh, what's your history with Xbox?
Well, so, oh boy, here we go. So as you can tell, I'm dressed as Mario. I grew up being a staunch Nintendo fanboy, I suppose, right? Sonic is my enemy. Crash Bandicoot's my enemy. Sony betrayed Nintendo by going back on the deal, and they made the PlayStation, whatever, all that kind of stuff. So I was deep into the kind of console wars of it, but I was also a Final Fantasy fan. And as you know, Square, leaves Nintendo. I was very mad about that. And Final Fantasy is ultimately what made me go multi-platform. So I got a PlayStation, and then in 1999, I got my first Sega console, Dreamcast. 2001, I was actually working at GameStop. I was a teenager though. I was 16. And so I didn't quite have the money to buy it. And so me and my friend at the time decided to go halvesies on it because he was always at my house anyway. So this is a good deal for me because, whatever. And so we ended up getting the Xbox, and I hated that first controller though. It was huge, that very first one. So
Duke.
we got the Duke. We got the smaller ones when they released those. But what ended up happening is some of my best gaming memories are with the Xbox, especially social ones, because this is a console, but you're able to hook it up together with like Ethernet hubs to do like LAN. And so every Saturday night, we would drive about 30 minutes from where we lived. And honestly, shout out to my parents for trusting me and they knew like I'm only like 16, and so we were basically going to a house party every Saturday night, and there's like substances and stuff. I had full disclosure to them, but they trusted me enough to like let me go to these. And it would be like we would spend from like 7 p.m. to like 3 a.m. playing Halo, like every Saturday night. And we would have 2 TVs and one in like the kitchen, and then 2 TVs in like the living room, and have all the cables running like everywhere. And so we had the full 16 player, Halo, Blood Gulch, CTF kind of thing. And it got to the point where over weeks, like over the year, we would kind of like try to balance the teams out. These are like permanent teams, and we would try to balance them out enough. But it got to the point where we couldn't even win, like no one could win because the teams were so balanced that, it was just at a deadlock every night. So we would play Halo for like 5 hours and there'd be like no points or whatever. And so these are some great moments for me, just remembering that time. Does anyone remember when Halo was first announced though?
I feel like it was a ARG situation, or was that with just 3? They did a really cool marketing thing with it.
This is crazy because my whole life I was a Nintendo fan and I was an Apple fan. And Halo was first announced by Steve Jobs at an Apple keynote.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh my God, that's right.
Bungie was like a Mac exclusive developer essentially, and Microsoft was like, nope, and they just yoinked it. So I was mad about that too at first because I was like, wait, that was my one thing I could tell PC people, like, well, Macs have Halo, and they were showing off like OpenGL, like look, the Warthog, the tires move like independently from each other, and like all this stuff, and so that was another kind of irritating thing for me. But then I ended up with the Xbox anyway, and so yeah, that was a side note, but it ended up being some of our best memories. And then, we were like waiting for people to show up because they're like late. We're playing like the Fusion Frenzy demo on the Halo disc or whatever. And no one like ever played Fusion Frenzy, the actual game, but we're just playing that little timed demo like over and over again while we're like getting things set up or whatever. And so some core memories were formed on the Xbox original console for sure.
For sure. I really, really love that console. And I was thinking about the announcement, and in my head, I was like, was it The Rock? Did The Rock introduce the Xbox in Halo at the same time? But he just introduced the Xbox. It wasn't Halo. I can believe was the reveal. It was barely even Dwayne Johnson at that time. He was just The Rock. What a time to be alive. Very, very cool, and good call on the Duke. What an evolution of controllers. I did fucking when I first grabbed it, I was like, oh yeah, this is a fucking controller of substance. This thing is worth its weight. But yeah, in time, I was like,
because they like reissued it because there was like some nostalgia for it, even though at first people were like trashing on it,
Yeah, I think you can get there's like I think it's Hyperkin, I want to say, makes a Duke controller.
Yeah, you can get, if you want to feel that substance. What did you say? Thickness?
Yeah.
Whatever, however you just described it. Yeah, if you could, you can have that right now. But my tiny hands struggled with it. For me, the first memory, I was just like gut reaction. I was also going through like all the games. I'm like, because I don't really remember playing a lot on my Xbox. I ended up getting one. But I got it like months afterwards, and I feel like I bought it used. So I was primarily playing on my PlayStation. And I had GameCube too. So I had those two at the same time. But I guess I was just like, I don't know if this Xbox thing's gonna be cool or not. But I had one. I even played Halo when it first came out, and I just remember all my friends saying, "Oh, we got to play Halo," and just like Mass Effect, I played Halo the first time and I just hated it. Funny enough, both games. Played it once and I was like, "Ew, I don't like this. This is not my jam." And then I revisited like a few years later, and ended up being one of my favorite games ever. Reason I wanted to start with that was because when Xbox Live first came out, I was always into all the weird shit. We talked about the weird controller I made my mom buy at a yard sale that one time for the Sega, which I thought would be like virtual reality, or it would capture my movements. It didn't do that.
Like that infrared movement thing, yeah.
I'd love to just interview my mother for all the things I made her buy, but I asked for the internet for my Xbox. I remember asking for that for Christmas or something, birthday. And I was like, I need Xbox Live. And my mom was like, what is that? This is showing our age a little bit. Like, what? What's Xbox Live? I'm like, well, if I get this, I can talk to my friends when I'm playing Halo. And she's like, what? Finally, I had to figure out how to get it hooked up. I remember my mom having to call somebody because you have to like plug the internet into it. And it came with like this big like ass like earpiece that you'd wear.
The Xbox Live
and, like,
communicator.
A carrying case.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you can buy a pack that had the card, the live card and the communicator. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, I feel like it was super cheap when it came out too, like $50 a year. And like my mom was just cool with it. Had no questions about me talking to strangers or what. She really had no clue. And like most of our parents at the time. And I just remember I have so many memories of finally getting that to work and just being mind blown that I could hear people talk and trash talk me over the internet. First time I heard about balls and, other various things when, you sound like me, you could be a child or a young girl. It's very interesting what you'll find and hear on the internet for the first time ever. But I just remember so many nights I'd be up when I was supposed to be in bed, like asleep. And my mom's like just so confused that I was talking to myself, but I was just talking to whoever was online playing Halo 2 with me at the time. So
the thing that you're bringing to my attention right now is that perhaps a better podcast one day will be just original Xbox memories, or like a series of podcasts like PS2 memories, GameCube memories, because we all have a lot to share. And every time you guys tell a story about yours, it triggers like a story of mine that I remember too, where like those early days of Xbox Live, like I remember how obsessed with Halo I was. And when Halo 2 was on the horizon with Xbox Live, and like that was such a big pitch, was like that integration. And again, another whole episode is like Halo 2's interface is like responsible for the way that modern console online gaming happens now. Like the whole thing was just built in, and then the entire Xbox 360's like social hub and dashboard was based off of like the way that Halo carried itself. It was unbelievable. And I remember, much like your story, we had to upgrade to broadband internet first to get that going. And I think we got it done like maybe a month before Halo came out. And I went to the store and I was like, I need Xbox Live and I need the hottest new Xbox Live game, which at that time was Rainbow Six 3 Black Arrow. And I played the shit out of that. Yeah, not bad. And I played the shit out of that in like the month leading up to Halo 2's release. And I remember very specifically, I could only play it in the living room for a while until right before Halo 2 came out. And I was like, I'm going to be playing a lot of this. I can't keep fucking doing this. I need internet in my room. And we couldn't get it rewired. So the deal that we made for that winter was, I think it came out in November, was if I maintained like a B or higher in all of my classes, then I could string an Ethernet cord out my second floor window and the first floor window to the fucking broadband.
How great is it? Your reward is running a wire somewhere else in the house out a window. Like, what the fuck?
Out a window and in a sliding door that was like cracked open all winter and then duct taped off. My parents were not thrilled, but let me tell you, I was.
It worked.
Very good.
Hey, we got chat talking about this stuff now too. I wanted to point this out. Trav Man in chat said, I remember how stoked I was when my brother got his Xbox for Christmas. I spent 2 hours ripping my new CD to his Xbox so he could listen to it while you played games. Thought that was so cool. You could use your own music. Very good call out.
That was like the first system that came out that had an internal hard drive, so you had the ability to kind of do that custom soundtrack. It was so fucking far ahead of its time. The original Xbox might have a case for best Xbox console, where the only other one that has a chance is Xbox 360, I would say. But if you go the other way, they kind of get increasingly worse, which we'll get into very shortly. But man, they did so much right with that. I remember one of my most played games was the official Xbox magazine very first demo disc that had Oddworld Munch's Odyssey on it.
Hell yeah, that game was great. I played it. Speaking of games that I played on the Xbox, it was pretty much Halo in that specific game.
That's definitely Oddworld. That's so
played a lot of Oddworld.
Halo, obviously, like whatever Halo games, but Blink's Time Sweeper because I'm I'm like a Nintendo fan. What happened to Blinks? I thought that was great, and then he's gone.
Love Blinks.
And Burnout games and like all that kind of stuff. So
again, another if we want to talk about like forgotten great platformers, Xbox era was so good. Just on Xbox in particular, I remember I played a ton of Blinks 1, Blinks 2, Dr. Muto or Muto, M-U-T-O, Dr. Muto, Voodoo Vince was on that list.
Yeah, Voodoo
my
Vince.
fucking God.
God.
Grabbed by the ghoulies, and he grabbed by the ghoulies enjoyers.
Of course. That was another one. And I'm like a Nintendo fan, got Rare, and then Microsoft was like, nope. Oh my gosh.
Crazy. Gianni mentions Crimson Skies, which was another great Xbox Live game. Really, really good.
They started packing that in after a while. Yeah.
Yes. I'm so glad that it ended up having such like wide recognition, but I am so perplexed that did not become like a massive franchise. But all right, that's enough polishing the old knob of Microsoft. All right, what you got, Josh? I'll get you one more.
I was just saying that's enough positivity, right? Because you're wanting to like we need to get to the topic.
I want to bring you guys through some real scary times because 2025 has not been great for old Microsoft. Now, it hasn't been, there's been glimpses of greatness. There have been some things that you could look to and say, oh, that's a win, but they have been few and far between because more often than not, starting as early as February of this year, things have been bad. And this we'll ease our way into this main topic here. And we'll talk a little bit about the unfortunate circumstance of why we're bringing it up. But then we'll talk a little bit about this franchise because I do want to know where you guys stand on this and if it affected you as much as it affected me. Arguably coming into this year, my most anticipated game that actually had like a release window of 2025 on it was delayed in February by Microsoft. And that game was Fable. Are you guys Fable fans?
Yes.
Fuck yeah. Oh, I eat that up. That's the only reason I have this Xbox on my desk when that comes out.
It's going to be awesome. And it's one of those things where they've delayed it so early that it's tough to judge them too harshly for it because whatever the actual reason is, and my guess is to get it right, it's probably worth the delay. They bullshitted us. This is the beginning of bad communication from Xbox. They said our holiday season is simply too jam-packed for Fable, and here we are, and like the only thing they're putting out is Outer Worlds 2 to minimal fanfare. So I don't know.
It's kind of weird, right? Because like most people expect delays on big titles at this point. You just kind of know. So why lie? Why say that there's gonna be so
much? If anything, it would make me feel better about like good. Thank God they're not just shoving this out the door like they have like some other titles previously. Like there's been games like I'm even thinking about like Hellblade 2, which I know I still haven't played. But just the fact that it had no like marketing behind it, it's sort of like they forgot it exists. So ever since that has happened with that game, which I know like it's not like a huge IP for Xbox, but it could be. I'm just terrified with what could happen to Fable, just because I care about that franchise so much, and it's already had a slippery slope with how it's been brought back. So
yeah, the thing that I'm noticing from chat is I think we need to embrace the like at this point we're crossing that threshold of Xbox being retro, where like the original Xbox certifiably is. I think 20 years is a no-brainer for if it's 20 years or prior, but I kind of rank things off of like console generation, and I think we're at the cusp of 360 and PS3 being retro as well, and those are really the prime Xbox timeframes. Like I see Mr. Hawks in chat, same stories, LAN, Blood Gulch, Little Caesars, absolutely based. Travman talking about renting from Blockbuster Video, bunch of fucking Fable sickos like Gianni and Peachwag. Well, we need to go back and I think show some love to this era too after being negative on it. Maybe we can find some time this winter, because to me, Fable is a very cozy franchise. Like being in Albion, especially the Albion of Fable 1 and 2, is such good like RPG town vibes, just running around, goofing off, doing some serious quests from time to time. But there is something special about Fable, and I love that we've got our communities kind of activated on it too, which is good for you know, someone, for a franchise that still needs that love, because we haven't had a Fable in a very long time, yet I feel like every time it's brought up, people are still passionate about it. So I am with you, Jerica, on I'm cautious. I am cautiously pessimistic is something I said on Spotlight last night, where I don't know. I'm going to say cautiously optimistic this time around, because I think that Playground Games is a very, very talented studio. And it seems like if they were willing to delay, that it's probably to get this game right. There's reason to be afraid, because Playground Games has never made a game like this. They've only made racing games. So hopefully they're taking good care of this game. But at this point, I feel like they need a massive win so badly. And Fable could be a very big pillar. And again, there's things are going to get very negative here. Looking at a little bit of positivity when you think about it, there is a world where next year, in 2026, year of our Lord, that we could end up having Xbox releases of Fable, Forza, Halo, and Gears, all in the same year. As of right now, Gears of War E-Day, the Halo campaign Evolved, Fable Reboot, and Forza Horizon 6 are all slated for next year. And I mean, those are 4 of the probably 5 biggest Xbox franchises, which is pretty crazy. And I think that could be a reason. I've had this theory before where Xbox kind of operates on like an every other year thing, where they'll sort of bank their goodwill, and they'll tank all their messaging one year, and then the next year they'll bring out all kinds of bangers. And we'll get into kind of like the announcements that they made in 2024 versus the announcements in 2025 when we get to June and start talking about the summer showcases. But for right now, let's move into, we're going to take a little jump in the timeline. Our second horrifying story from Xbox in 2025 was the May Xbox hardware price hike. The already struggling Xbox consoles all across the board get bumps in their price. The Xbox Series S gets bumped up to $379, so your entry-level Xbox is nearly $400 now, all the way up to the abysmally priced Xbox Series X 2 terabyte Galaxy Black Special Edition console for a whopping $729.99, which is just fucking insane to put that price on everything. Now, granted, this was during like tariff madness, where really the price of milk was going up everywhere, but that didn't feel good. Jerica, what do you remember about that time frame when those announcements were coming?
Just dreading what it will look like for whatever comes next, because I know, like, you know, I'm just for me, I guess I'm being selfish. I'm thinking about what this would do to me, you know, and I'm seeing how, like, you know, I really want to get whatever's next, but this might be the first time when especially after this generation with Xbox, like, I don't see a reason why I need a new Xbox now. And I feel like I'm going to have a really easy time selling this Xbox that's sitting on my desk for the cost that someone might want to finally jump into this generation. Cause I don't know, I'm really interested to see, like, obviously everyone wanted the PlayStation 6 when it came out. I feel like that was the hardest console to ever get in my entire life. And I just don't see that happening. Maybe again for PlayStation, but for Xbox specifically, I don't see that. And they're sort of already transitioning from, you know, they have hardware, but that's not going to be the thing that defines Xbox in the future, I don't think. So I don't know. Like, they're so expensive. Do they even make another console after this? Like, how do you top that price point? Like, I don't see a reason for it.
Again, not to jump too far ahead, but I have like an extra kind of like story that I put in here for August, where I just kind of like, I wanted to have one topic where we talk about, I called it Rise of the Rumors, which has been such a weird thing this year for Xbox, where that kind of like uncertainty has led to so many wild news stories and so much speculation this year, more so than ever before for like a first party console manufacturer, of like, what is coming next? What is the next Xbox? Are they becoming a third party developer? Is there going to be a next Xbox? It's been very, very strange to see. Josh, I'm assuming you weren't affected by these price hikes. Did you already have an Xbox Series? Did you buy that on?
this is what's crazy to me is, like I said about my history with it, at some point I gave up on the console war stuff and I just focus on software. And so I usually have everything so I can play everything. I just hate being like, oh, well, this is only on PlayStation. So, you can't play that. So I usually just try to have a little bit of everything, but I actually did not buy these most recent series Xbox because I have a gaming PC and all the exclusives are available on Windows Game Pass or Xbox, Microsoft Store, whatever. So they've released all their exclusives on PC now. And so this is one of the first, actually, this is like the first big three consoles I didn't buy in like decades. And like Jericho was talking about the price, it kind of, when it first came out, it was all right value. But now you're talking about it's 2025. This is basically kind of old hardware. You've raised the price. You can buy a better PC pre-built for that amount. It makes no sense. The value is not there.
I agree wholeheartedly. If I didn't already have one, it would be a very tough sell. And I have found a lot to love in my Series X since getting one, and I think that the value proposition is poor, yet it's still a very good like actual console, to the point of when I have multi-platform options for which way to go, I typically lean towards my Xbox these days. I think that a lot of it has to do with the controller, but again, I haven't really been affected by these price hikes because, again, I feel so bad doing this. Spoiler alert, this isn't the only price hike that happens this year on the timeline, which is just fucking insane. But it is very interesting. And Josh, to piggyback on what you said a little bit, it kind of relates back to our initial story of like my history with Xbox. Is I think buying that Xbox or asking for that Xbox for Hanukkah that year after getting the GameCube and having a PS2 was the dawn of me not missing out on console exclusive games, where I decided like I am the type of gamer that needs the full breadth of availability. So I need a PSP, I need a DS, I need a Game Boy, I need an Xbox 360, I need a PlayStation 3, I need a Nintendo Wii. I don't want to be without Resistance Fall of Man. I don't want to be without Halo 3. I don't want to be without Mario Galaxy. I'm going to need them all, because prior to that, I was kind of like a one console. Like I had an NES, then I had a Genesis, and then I got a Super Nintendo after the fact, and I got a Nintendo 64, and I got a Dreamcast. So I kind of like worked my way up there, and there were some misses in there. I had a PlayStation 1, but I got that really late as well. That was like a used. My dad got it for me in a garage sale type of thing. But from that console generation on, once the Xbox was introduced, I couldn't stop. Trenchers arrived and mentioned that I got my Series X about a year after it came out. Games I've owned are Indiana Jones and Grounded. They've dropped the ball with multiple games, have such long development schedules, not enough games for it, sadly. And that's kind of the reason why we're having a tough time with like the value proposition of these price hikes too, especially when we talk about the new price of entry for an Xbox. The Series S is drastically less powerful than the PlayStation 5. And at this point, we're talking about a sub $100 difference in, October of 2025 of which console to get on day one, which isn't the
Series S, doesn't it have some kind of trouble playing some of the most recent games too as well?
So the original Series S pitch was that it would be able to play every single game perfectly that that Series X and PS5 and multi-platform games can play. And this console generation, that has been the source of many issues development wise, holding back in perhaps the entire console generation, having to dumb things down so they can be multi-platform. And it has also led to kind of a little bit of backtracking on that statement. And the first piece of that puzzle that kind of put things into play there was, I believe, Baldur's Gate 3, where they couldn't get Baldur's Gate 3 onto the Xbox Series S. And because of that, and Xbox's commitment to having both of them, that means you couldn't have Baldur's Gate 3 on Xbox because you can't get it on Xbox Series X either. But they had to kind of run it back. And I think you can play, if I recall correctly, I think you can play Baldur's Gate on Xbox Series S now, but it's not feature complete. Like there's no co-op or something like that. I'm not positive. You'd have to check. I don't play boring games. So
it's compromised. It's compromised. Boring games.
Right, exactly. I think it's reasonable.
Serious Shard in chat brings up a good point to the pandemic. Definitely hurt games this console generation. That's something I had brought up too, because I know it's like 2020 and everything's crazy in 2021, but people are like, wow, look, all these games, still good games coming out. But AAA games sometimes have a 4 to 7 year development cycle. And so if you think about it, we're 2025, we're still in lag time of things that were delayed or affected in pre-production or in the middle of production in 2020. And I do think even like right now, we're still feeling the effects from 2020 in game development.
There's going to be games that should have came out this generation that will be on the next consoles. And I'm pissed because I got this cool like PS5 Pro 30th anniversary and it's going to be obsolete in a year because some game probably won't run on it, but maybe not.
It's just weird to think because like in 2020, in 2021, in 2022, we were like, oh, there's plenty of games coming out, but a lot of those games are already like done by the time the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2020 was a rough year because all eyes were on the console manufacturers. Both consoles launched that year. It was peak pandemic, but even before those consoles launched and there were, obviously like supply chain issues and shit like that, it was a tough look. Like I think Xbox's exclusives, just at a glance, I'm looking at it, we got like Flight Simulator and Gears Tactics and Ori Will of the Wisps in 2020 compared to like fucking Ghosts of Tsushima, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Last of Us Part 2. Like it's fucking 2020 is an incredible year for PlayStation and I believe a dog shit year for Xbox, I would say. Tough times. Tough times.
I don't think they do a big console this time. I won't go off the path here with this, but like I don't think they do a heavy duty console. If they do, it's definitely not going to be the focal point. So
I would like to point out that was the rumor the last time, though.
I think this time
Xbox One was going to be the last one, and they're going multi-platform software, cloud streaming.
Yeah, there's a big rumor coming up right now. Jez Corden, I think, tweeted early or late last week or early this week about rumors circulating, and we'll talk about that in the Rise of the Rumors section because it looks like we're getting something, but it's not what you might expect, which is interesting. Let's go from May. There's been a recent Xbox price hike, so we got an Xbox showcase coming up, a full E3 type showing, an Xbox Direct. They're gonna come with the games. They're really gonna bring the sauce this time because they have to. The console's more expensive. They're losing the console wars. What do you have to show us? Not much. So if you guys remember the Xbox showcase, I'm going to run through some of the stuff that was in it this past year in June, and we'll try to talk about like the emphasis on that. So first of all, Outer Worlds 2 was maybe the biggest showing, which again launches today. We have Ninja Gaiden 4, which we had already seen, which had already been announced by this time. This was announced, I think, during the Developer Direct, I want to say, when they had the shadow drop of Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, and then they announced Ninja Gaiden 4, which launched on GamePass, which isn't a bad showing. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4, Grounded 2, which was a nice announcement. We got to give them some credit there. Gears of War Reloaded, which is the remaster that everyone forgot came out this year already. Indiana Jones DLC, a decent look at the Clockwork Revolution game, High on Life 2, Keeper, Fate's End, Age of Mythology, Invincible Versus, Final Fantasy 16 and 7 remake going multi-platform. Of course, Sea of Thieves was there, Solo Leveling, Chronos, Planet of Lana 2. Here's the thing, nothing to write home about. And the big issue was that at the end, they showed a teaser for an incredible looking video game. Do you guys remember what that game was?
Was it Perfect
I'll walk
Dark?
you through it. Oh, you wish. More on that soon. It was a crazy sci-fi scenario, and everyone was speculating in chat, and they were looking, and it was very cool, and people were wondering, is this Perfect Dark? Is this new IP? This looks like, is this a reboot of Time Splitters? What could this be? Some sort of AI futuristic.
It was cool.
Fucking Call of Duty Black Ops 7, and everybody was so disappointed by that being their big fucking final announcement. It was so bizarre. And the problem is that you have to compare it to the Xbox showcase of 2024, which was an absolute fucking banger, where They brought to the function Doom the Dark Ages, Avowed, Diablo 4 expansion, the Warcraft expansion, Dragon Age the Veilguard, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Stalker 2, Fable had a really good showing, State of Decay 3 is still there, Perfect Dark looks absolutely incredible. Did I say Gears of War E-Day? Because that was debuted there as well. Metal Gear Solid Delta South of Midnight that we hadn't seen in a really long time. Like, it was just banger after banger after banger. Even the third-party stuff was really impressive. Things like Life is Strange and Mixtape being debuted for the first time. Just an absolutely great show. Historically, I would say that 2024 one was the best Xbox show that we had in nearly a decade. And it's a tough act to follow for sure, but even a bunch of games that we would have expected to see updates on were missing in June. And this is the first sign of things like of trouble in paradise, the sign of things to come, because the news stories only get worse this year. But having no shows on Gears of War E-Day, there's no Halo to speak about, not even fucking Infinite DLC or an expansion. There's no mention of Perfect Dark, maybe our first indicator that something is severely wrong over there. No updated look at Fable just being a fucking no-show after being delayed into 2026. Definitely a show where people talked about what was missing more so than what was there, which I think is the biggest issue. Really, really tough. Do you guys have any standouts from that show?
This year, exactly. not really, because it was just like, like I said, I'm looking for the exclusives. A lot of this stuff was kind of either shown before, multi-platform. Planet of Lana 2 looks exactly like Planet of Lana, so it's like, okay, like, I don't know.
They had an ID at Xbox event just 2 days ago, and one of the big titles that kind of anchored the show was Planet of Lana 2, and I was talking about it, and I was like, oh yeah, wait. I played Planet of Lana 1 and it was 3 hours long and I felt like it overstayed its welcome and I fell off of it after 2 hours. And then their fucking first thing that they're saying, like, Planet of Lana 2 is double the size, double the length, double the... I was like, all right. Like, I couldn't even get through 3 hours of your game. I certainly don't want 6 hours of more of it. But some people really like that game. So
I'm sold on the egg game. That's all I remember from that.
Oh, yeah,
and it's probably the only thing I'll remember for the rest of the year. Egging on.
Game Pass
that is
day
my
one,
shit.
yeah.
That's
the thing. It's tough. We are focusing on like negatives. Been a good year for Game Pass, first party and third party wise. You know, it's tough to. I mean, a good year for Game Pass games, I guess.
Yes.
Maybe not a great year for Game Pass pricing.
No.
Let's move on to July, which I would say
I want to watch July.
Yeah, July is the darkest point in the timeline, perhaps, except for perhaps this month that we're in right now. So in mid-July, the bombshell fucking drops. Massive layoffs across Xbox, across multiple studios. Hundreds of jobs eliminated. The closure of the initiative that had been working on Perfect Dark for nearly 5 years. The cancellation of Perfect Dark. The cancellation of Everwild over at Rare, and Rare also having layoffs despite they dodged the bullet. They didn't get closed. Sea of Thieves still printing money over there for them somehow. But Everwild canceled after being MIA for 6 years, I want to say. And then the other one that really caught like a massive stray was Turn 10, who had just put out Forza Motorsport, the kind of reboot, or Forza 8, whatever number Forza it was. Not Forza Horizon, but Forza Motorsport. Turn 10. Staff was reduced by 50%. Who knows what's going on over there at this point? Probably just a couple extra cars for Forza and not much else. So this was obviously a massive, massive blow on many facets. Josh, take us away. You seem passionate. You wanted to talk about this.
Well, this is like this is what kickstarted it for me too. This July stuff for me is like when the alarms just started going off for me, because the game industry as a whole, and this isn't limited to Xbox. We are focusing on Xbox, but the layoffs are industry-wide problem. It's because they stopped. Basically, they're treating everyone just as expendable. They're hiring devs, and whether the game is profitable, whether the studio is profitable or not, they just fire everyone, and then the next pitch they want to do, they'll just rehire different people for lower prices or like whatever it is, right? So this is a horrible industry practice. It destabilizes the entire industry because they're basically just getting these young people like out of school. They're chewing them up, spin them out. And a lot of these people don't stay in the game industry because it's just so volatile. They get laid off every project. So they're having to move around everywhere. If they ever want to start a family or just like relax for a second without having a job hunt, there's no option to do that. So they get like a year or two in game dev, and then they go into some other more stable field. So you have massive brain drain going on. And so then now you have these layoffs hit everyone again. It's other companies too, but this is a huge one at Microsoft in July. And the first thing I hear is Everwild being canceled. And okay, some people don't really care about that because lately Rare's output's a little weird. They're basically a Sea of Thieves company at this point. But of note is that Greg Mails leaves Rare after 35 years at Rare. This would be like Kojima retiring. It's like Miyamoto retiring. It's like one of the original like video game artisans, who helped define the entire industry. Was just like, okay, you know what? This is a good time for me to just peace out. And with that, there's can be this could be a whole podcast is like companies, what makes a company, right? Or like, like the Beatles, is the Beatles Paul McCartney or whatever, is Queen Freddie Mercury. And so Rare was such a unique company where, not that they're like a family company, but they had a couple sets of brothers. They had the Stamper brothers and the Mails brothers. And some of the best games in there, all the Donkey Kong Countries, Banjo-Kazooie, all like these amazing, incredible games. Greg Mails was like a huge part of that. Yeah, Grab by the Ghoulies. Greg was like a designer. He did like a lot of the Donkey Kong Country games. He did Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64. His brother did a lot of art. So all this, like what Jerica's talking about, these like goofy little eyeball creatures, that was, the Mails brothers. And so to be losing kind of the last one of those people out of Rare, whether they stick around or not, that company's not the same anymore without him, to be honest. And so they lost some other veterans too. And so just the brain drain that Microsoft is helping facilitate in the industry is just awful because you're losing all these decades veterans, and it's going to be a problem. Well, starting now, it already is a problem, but you're losing this experience and this creative, like, who are the new people going to like ask questions to,
Yeah, it becomes it's the ship of Theseus over there at Rare now, where when you lose all of those components over the years, and now the only thing is left is like some lower level employees that interacted with the old guard. Is this still the Rare that we remember? It's something that happens more often than we'd like to see over in the video game industry. Lots and lots of turnover, which is evident, of course, by all of these layoffs.
I think the scariest thing of all of this, obviously, is the fact that just all of it happened so fast, and it seemed like a pretty easy cut for them. So, and when that happened, that's probably why I was automatically struck. Like literally anything can get canceled. No one gives a fuck. Perfect Dark got canceled. I was like immediately like, okay, when's Fable gonna, eat it? Because I'm just like
that
really
studio, right, for Perfect Dark.
Yeah, it's the world's first quadruple A fucking title.
Yeah, they had to put that studio together to make Perfect Dark.
Just the fact that they were able just to cut losses that easy, it's just it's wild to me. And just, I don't know, like, does anyone feel bad over there? And I don't think so. maybe someone does. Maybe like one or two people.
Not in the C-suite, I don't think. I think under that maybe people feel bad, but it is tough. And it's go.
Yeah, knowing that, like, to Josh's point, like, I would never want to work in this industry. I would never want to work for Xbox, like more so than any Xbox studio. That is scary. And I mean, that's the same for a lot of gaming companies right now, but it's just happened so quickly and a lot at once, I'm noticing.
And you got to also take into consideration that a lot of times lately, it's been like you're forced under the fucking thumb of Microsoft, basically, where there's a ton of Bethesda employees that are now Microsoft employees. There's a ton of Activision employees that are now Microsoft employees. And they come in and, at this point, the dust has barely settled on the Activision deal. Who knows what layoffs are coming from those departments in the coming years? Probably very, very many. They're going to need to consolidate even further. They're going to need to move those teams around. All going to be results based. Who knows what it's going to end up looking like, because the structure at Activision wasn't good for many years in the first place as well. You know, you had teams like Toys for Bob being pulled off of AAA Crash Bandicoot and Spyro games to go be a Warzone support studio, you know, and now we're under the fucking Xbox moniker who can't keep a team to save their lives. I think Josh, you made a really good point too about like the way that they have failed to retain talent and they're really churning and burning a lot of these teams is probably the scariest thing. You think about what happened at 343 Studios and the failure of Halo Infinite, and a lot of it comes down to people not understanding the proprietary engine and software that they were using to develop that game, because the team at 343 wasn't large enough or strong enough or both to develop the game correctly, and they relied on contractors, and those contractors would come in from different studios. They would try to help where they could, but their productivity was screeching to a halt left and right because of issues popping up that they were unable to rectify because they were unfamiliar with how to develop for this fucking system, for this game, for this engine, which is truly terrifying. And more on Halo in the fucking near future as well, because I don't think that fucking problem is solved by any means. Jerica, what you got?
Xbox new slogan. I just have the new slogan. Everything's an Xbox that you can play Call of Duty on.
Yeah, pretty much all hands on deck. It is.
And maybe
it is
Fable.
scary.
Like
One
maybe.
more thing.
Hopefully.
One more thing.
Yeah.
I think what makes it sting a little bit worse too is that like Phil Spencer specifically has spent like a decade building this kind of brand where he's like everyone's friend, everyone's pal. He's like, no, look at us, you know, well, we're going to get these companies, but we're just throwing money at them. They have all the creative direction. We're just so supportive of the game industry as a whole. You know, oh, we're not competitors. Like, let us be on PlayStation, whatever. It's Sony that doesn't want crossplay, like all this stuff. We're the good guys. We're everyone's buddy. You know, don't worry about us. We're buying Bethesda or whatever. They can do whatever they want. We'll just give them money. We're not going to stop them from releasing on certain consoles, whatever. So they build this whole like persona of like being like the good industry people, even though they're like this huge monolith. And then, well, surprise.
Yeah, and it's like it's a repeated thing too. I think like really notably in early 2024, the closure of, is it Hi-Res Studios? What the fuck am I thinking? No, Hi-Fi Rush. Who makes Hi-Fi Rush?
I feel like whatever you said was right.
Hi-Res? Maybe. No, I don't know. I think I'm getting Hi-Fi and Hi-Res mixed up. I mean, Tango Gameworks, good pull, P-Swag in the chat. It was a really, really bad one. And just like shuttering that studio was the first indicator of like, fuck, man, maybe these Activisions aren't such a good idea. And that has only proved more and more true. Before we breeze by it, I feel like we should spend a little bit more time talking about Perfect Dark. Jerica, did you have hype for Perfect Dark based on that like gameplay segment from the 2024 like re-reveal of it? Were you sad to see this one go?
Yeah, because like I was just excited to see. I'm just ready Xbox to have a gaming win. Like after all this is said and done, like I still haven't seen it. You had the option to promote Hellblade 2, which I know is not Perfect Dark, but it seems like they don't care about the games that could be setting themselves. Like, you know, I just think about PlayStation and like the first party studio games that we always have. Like, where is the slate in the? You were talking about the good old days, you know, that whole couple of decades of gaming that we had on our Xbox and 360 era. It's like I don't want anything. I don't believe in like console wars. I care less. I think me and Josh, we were talking about like, I got all the things I don't want to miss out, and I want to see these cool things come back. And for Perfect Dark, that was like the first game I played on my 360, and like seeing a game in HD, it was the first like 1080p game that I played, and I was like, oh shit, this is how textures are supposed to look. So like that was my first introduction to Perfect Dark Zero on 360. And it was cool seeing once again, you know, at the time, a sexy lady killing people in games. You know, for me in the early 360 days, still very new to seeing a female protagonist in a lot of games. So that was cool. And I was wanting to see how it gets remade and like, can this be a staple for Xbox now? But I think those days are just gone. Like I just don't see it happening.
I agree. And you know, Jerica, you might not care about the console wars, but you know who does? The White House. No,
Oh yeah,
no, Jesus,
that was a
fucking
perfect
Christ.
segue. Makes no sense.
Xbox's terrifying year AI art of the fucking president of the United States holding an energy sword. Jesus fucking Christ, kill me.
I'm pretty sure.
Truly
Probably
wild.
at least if we're dogging on Xbox, but I know like a lot of people were like, "God damn it!"
Yeah.
Now this.
Everwild,
now this.
in fact. Yeah. Real quick before we move off this fucking topic, I am so miffed that Everwild got canceled. Now, I was really, really hot on that Perfect Dark trailer. I think that was my like game of the show for the entire Summer Game Fest 2024. It was a really nice vertical slice. But Everwild, since its announcement, just looked like sort of like a return to form for like really weird, rare stuff where I can see it being like an evolution of Viva Pinata, kind of.
I disagree.
Yes. Oh, really?
Because literally, I'm not surprised. Based on the catalog of Xbox games from the last 5 years, everything's a first-person shooter.
Yeah.
For the most part. Like, that's not surprising that got cut. The fact that Perfect Dark got cut is still the most surprising out of all of it. Because like that fits the types of games that you want to play, that they want you to play on Xbox. So it wasn't surprising to me.
Yeah.
Funny enough, it's a game I think about really often, and we really saw nothing of it.
I know, because it was true. It was like the biggest story of Everwild was where is Everwild? You know, because that was like the predominant story.
No, because he's talking about the potential, just because like Rare, we know what the potential of Rare is, and it looked like
but Xbox don't care.
It's not, obviously, right? It looked like though that we were like, oh, they're giving so much time, like maybe they're able to just do like, let them do what they do best. But yeah.
Nope. Wasn't it supposed to be like similar to like a Viva Pinata experience, but in like a Rare universe? I feel like it was supposed to, like, do we ever hear like what kind of game it was? I feel like I remember that.
No, I think there was like a leaked story, I want to say in like 2022 about behind the scenes Everwild stuff, but we never saw anything. I'm pretty sure we only ever saw like the debut teaser trailer for Everwild, and like we got like that key art, and then it was just that. Like I think there's quite literally only minutes of footage of that game in existence.
I believe there's some weird other like a behind the scenes thing, because I remember like their studio was like almost, they had like decorative like forest stuff, and then they had like some of the like game leads like vaguely talking about concepts, but it was nothing where you could say like this game is this.
Yeah, it was weird. It was kind of in my head, it was always just like, man, I'm excited to see Rare do some like weird ass Avatar style creature design was kind of what we were getting into, like strange environments and biomes with like otherworldly looking deer and antelope and shit like that. Just very strange stuff.
If you remember Spore, what that could have been.
I know Spore.
We need a Spore podcast right now. I feel like you're the only two that only understand Spore.
Now, listen, the hits keep coming, because later in July, this very month, after all those layoffs, Xbox is already on their fucking bad news tear, right? They also announced unceremoniously that some of their games will be going up in price, which is happening across, like they kind of did this in line with Nintendo and some other rumblings of like GTA price was a big hot topic at that point, about like GTA coming out and potentially costing like $100 for their base version of the game, things like that. And Xbox tried to slip in there and say, well, we also have $80 games. And our first one, do you guys remember what it was?
Hold on.
I'll give you a hint. It came out today.
Oh, outer
they announced that Outer Worlds 2 was going to be their first $80 game, and
why would you even do it though? Why would
the fuck out?
It's still better to do game.
Out.
That's
100%.
I resubscribed for like 1 month so I could pay Power Wash Simulator 2 and Outer Worlds, or
it's a smart move.
Not the Wilds. I still get those confused.
It's the same. And Outer Wilds is like one of my favorite games of all time, yet I still confuse Outer Worlds and Outer Wilds all the time. But that's because
actually funny is they probably want you to do that. Like they probably are gonna. They could probably say like, oh, we're actually gonna charge $100 for games, because they want you to subscribe and do the thing. So
there is a release cadence where if you look at it for like AAA, especially first party day one release with Game Pass games, a lot of times things will be like 5 weeks apart instead of 4 weeks apart, so that you need to hit the extra, like even if you perfectly time your 30 days, you won't be able to play like Indiana Jones and Avowed or something like that within their same like release windows on one charge, you're going to need to resubscribe, which they're going to continually do. And I feel like even if I go piecemeal, I'm going to end up 9 months out of 12 months of the year. Yeah. I'm going to end up buying Game Pass at this point, especially because I'm a streamer. I feel like I am in for life on Game Pass, whatever they want to charge me. But nonetheless, it still stings. I think the interesting part about the $80 thing is that in a last-ditch effort to gain goodwill, the problem that they had is that they announced $80 games are coming. And the first one is Outer Worlds, a game that is, all things considered, kind of its selling point is like its limited scope. It's like a digestible Fallout, you know, is kind of how Outer Worlds has always been pitched. It's always kind of felt like if it was released on the PS2, it would be a $40 game and not a $50 game. You know what I mean?
It feels like a $39 game, yeah.
Yeah, Control says a game that sucks, which is very funny.
I didn't love the first one also, and I was really bummed to see that, you know, wow, that studio's having to work on a whole other game that I just don't feel like is a good return on investment, but maybe I'm proven wrong here, but it's just a weird.
It's insane. I had this thing going on where, first off, Obsidian's fucking output this year needs to be studied because these motherfuckers put out Avowed, Outer Worlds 2, and Grounded 2 in early access in one calendar year, which is fucking bonkers.
They're like, lucky they got them out when they did, and they're not canceled now. So
I know. They're the only ones with any job security because they're actually making money, I fear.
Or the only games that could come out. It is really weird.
I had this like thing that I came up with when I was on stream about how for a long time in the middle of this year, I was like, oh yeah, Outer Worlds 2 is coming out. We got to play Outer Worlds 1 to get ready for it. And I fucking was like, hold on a second. I've had 5 years to play Outer Worlds and I've never wanted to. Why am I going to rush to play it now just so I can play a sequel that I'm not even really excited for? And then one day I just turned the page and I was like, oh yeah, I'm out. I'm out on Outer Worlds.
I was just really hoping for, that's why I asked if either one of you have played or if you streamed at all, Jake, because like I'm still excited for what it could be because I love space. I love a not good RPG. Mm-hmm. I remember the one thing that turned me off in the first one was specifically I couldn't romance anyone, and the dialogue was so great, and there was a lot of potential, and I was mad I couldn't, bone.
Yeah,
it did seem like I haven't looked into it in this one because it did seem like the companion system in the other one was pretty good, but
wasn't bad.
Like you said, there was not like a lot of romanceable.
Yeah, I ended up Avowed is still, even with all the shifting around and things, trickling down my list. Avowed is still in my top 10 games of this year, and I think I will give Outer Worlds 2 a shot, despite having an hour and a half of experience in Outer Worlds that I didn't really enjoy.
Sequels as my are supposed to be better. I hear,
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm curious. Don't play the first one, just play the second one.
Yeah, that's honestly, I'm gonna hop in.
Why would you?
Motto.
I'm gonna hop in. I think I might do it off stream and just see if it clicks for me. I also am in a phase right now where I've got my new computer with like the fucking beefy graphics card and everything. So every time something new comes out, I'm kind of like, oh, I just want to boot that up on PC and see how it looks, So with Game Pass already there, I'm gonna check it out. I don't know. I have Game Pass. It feels foolish not to at least give it a fucking shot and see if it clicks for me.
I didn't know you existed off stream. I thought like when you click offline, you don't exist.
Sometimes I actually just sit at the wall and wait until streaming time again. Like everybody who watches me, I'm assuming they just sit at the computer and wait for me to go live again. And if not, if you're doing other things, you're gonna need to report in and tell me what you're up to.
Your viewers do, yeah.
Yeah, I would hope so. This is what we need. The fucking punchline of this story, by the way, is that Microsoft fucking backtracks. they announce it for $80. There's immediate backlash, and they put out a statement. They're like, "Oh, our bad. Actually, it's only $70. That's our bad." Which still, I honestly think like it's kind of maybe some marketing genius going on right now, because one could argue that game should have been priced at 60 and not 70. But announcing it for 80 and then dragging it back to 70, all of a sudden it feels like we're getting a fucking deal. The other thing is that they only announced that they're drawing that fucking price back for Outer Worlds. There are plenty of $80 Xbox games coming down the fucking pipeline for sure. I just don't know what the next one's going to be. Certainly not Perfect Dark. Probably Fable, if I were to guess.
Probably.
Yeah,
I would guess
definitely.
Fable. I would guess Fable. I would guess Forza 6. I would guess Gears of War E-Day will all be $80 titles. Halo is a question mark because I don't know the release strategy or plan or how substantial that extra content is, especially with no multiplayer.
Yeah, I'm curious. If it has all the extra bells and whistles and more ways to play, I could see that being $80 easy.
Oh,
Everyone else is
God.
doing it. Why not?
Fucking crazy. Absolutely crazy. Let's jump into September, where Xbox decided our fucking selling like cold cakes console needs to be price hiked yet again. Absolutely fucking insane. The new retail prices. Let me just run through these. Let me refresh your memory on what it costs to buy a brand new Xbox these days. If you went to the store right now, you walked into your local Best Buy and said, I think it's Xbox time, you would be looking at the following options. An Xbox Series S with 512 gigabytes of storage, $399.99. A 1 terabyte of storage Xbox Series S, $449.99.
Fuck.
To get an Xbox Series X digital, no fucking disc drive, $599.99. To get the regular Xbox Series X, the one that launched for $500 5 years ago, will cost you $649.99. And then your premium, the most premium Xbox that's available to you, the Xbox Series X 2 terabyte Galaxy Black Special Edition, is a whopping fucking $799.99. Fucking insane prices. Insane prices.
Patrick's right. I should just sell it and get back what I put in, because I'll just play Fable on the PC. It'll be fine. I'll turn down the graphics a little bit.
I mean, like I already said it on the last price hike event, but it doesn't make any sense to pay that much for a 5-year-old tech when you can buy a pre-built PC for the same or around the same. That'll be like twice as good, essentially, from a specs perspective. And you can play all of the same Xbox games on it. So really, I don't know what they're trying to do here. I mean, I understand their excuse or their reasoning, but it doesn't really make sense.
They got to cut down on supply with the next. I don't know. I'm not up on the rumor mill over here. I can't wait to hear more about it because I'm behind on that. But they got to cut back on like having to build these things. That's too much, and no one's going to do that. Well, some people will, but I'm curious how the handheld sold. Have y'all done any? Have y'all?
My next story, and I think it actually coincides really well, and it brings us directly into the same pricing conversation, because I think that's kind of. I would call this maybe an overall blemish. I think now that we are a couple weeks into availability on this console, the Xbox ROG Ally X, and I think ROG Ally regular, whatever, Xbox edition, launched to middling reviews. These are not stellar handhelds. There's basically better options out there. I think it doesn't hold a torch to the fucking Steam Deck OLED and things like that. It's coming up short, and it's priced not competitively at $599 for your entry level and $1,000 for your flagship Xbox console. We don't have stats on sales, but I can't imagine they're very fucking good. Did this thing, was this ever even like a twinkle in your eye? Did you guys think about getting this thing?
No, because my current Asus ROG thing that I have, they don't have Xbox buttons, does just fine.
Yeah,
I play pretty much all the games I'm currently playing on this PC. On that thing, it runs God of War Ragnarok perfectly.
I would get a Steam Deck over the Xbox thing for sure.
I love the thing that I got that I only paid like $300 for, because I just like being able to run Windows on it and play like all the things in the same spot. It's not as difficult to navigate as I thought it would. And I actually use that thing a lot. I like.
This is a good point that you're bringing up, because you basically have the same thing.
Yeah.
That's just marketed different. And so it's like, how much are you willing to pay just for like the branding and I guess like a menu aesthetic? You know what I mean?
I'm sure it's faster and probably better battery. I don't even know the specs on the thing I have, but I could tell you right now, like it's close to 120 hertz. Like it can do that. And I played God of War Ragnarok on it, and it looked fucking great. Like I was like, this is cool. So that's enough juice I need handheld wise to do what I need to do.
Oh yeah, our wonderful chat has some stats for us, and of course, if it comes from chat, you have to believe it. They're the official reporters here at Drop In Drop Out. Sears says power wise, it's the best handheld yet for the X, but unfortunately, Windows is ass, and so is $1,000 for a handheld, which is extremely true. And then Noah has some raw stats for us. We do know the Xbox handheld sold 1,000 units in Spain during launch week. That's Spain, the country with 49 million people in it, which I think percentage-wise might be less than 1% of the population. I'm not a numbers guy.
Now, I don't know if I don't know modern 2025. It's complicated with all the global tariff stuff, whatever, with like how they factor in, profits. But I know previously how console manufacturers factored in is initially they would plan to take a loss for the first X amount of years, 1, 2, 3 years maybe, but they expect things as technology kind of surpasses where that console is. They expect manufacturing to get cheaper, et cetera, so they can start turning a profit on those consoles. So that's a little bit why it's a little bit offensive to me, just talking about all this pricing stuff. Like I have no idea what the ROG, pricing is, but I imagine they're not selling it at a loss actually. And so I know like for sure, even with the Xbox Series ones, like by now they're turning a profit on those because it's 5-year-old tech. And so that's what's kind of offensive is like, they're saying, well, our prices have gone up, manufacturing tariffs, which is technically true, but you're just talking about like cutting a little bit of your profits, like a little bit compared to like, it's messed up.
At a certain point, you got to put asses in seats regardless of what movie you're showing. And we're living in a world where things have changed so drastically since the console generation that prices for manufacturing used to get adjusted not only via the components that were put into these launch systems, but these launch systems would get revised and we would get, a PS2 Slim that would use components that cost less to manufacture. We could get these things into more hands of users. I mean, even as recent as the last console generation, the PS4 got a Slim and a price drop. The Xbox released their Xbox One S and Xbox Series One X, which again, one was pricier and had better performance, but the One S became a great entry level console, halfway through the console generation. And then we get nothing even similar to that this time around. In fact, we get the same technology for an increased price. And I know that has to do with like, the changing times and whatnot, but being that concerned with the old bottom line on hardware is still fucking insane for me, because I remember I worked at GameStop for a long time, and I ended up climbing far enough up the ranks that I would get some regional like P&Ls, profit and loss reports, and we would see these margins on consoles and software. And the thing that always came into play was, where do we make our money? And this is the same way that the manufacturers make their money as well, is it's not through these fucking consoles. The consoles are your ticket to making money. And oftentimes it's not really from the game. It's from the fucking accessories. It's from the controllers. It's from those add-ons that you get people on. That's where the money, that's where like the pure profit comes from. The best thing that you can do to make your company money is sell your Xbox with a game and an extra controller. That extra controller will have the highest margin every single time. And the fact that they're not willing to take any kind of loss or any and continually nickel and dime us to the point of they're raising the price of their entry level console $20 extra seems fucking insane for a company of that magnitude to just like at that point, just what are you going to sell? 20 consoles? Just take the hit,
they would not
man.
be losing money. And it used to be that they'd be fine breaking even, like you said, on consoles. They'd be fine even taking a loss sometimes. Like you said, the focus was to get it, sell software, sell attach. And Microsoft especially is the one that invented Xbox Live as a subscription service. And so honestly, it doesn't even matter like if they take a full loss on the console, because if they get you for now, and it keeps going up now. So if they get you for X amount of dollars a month, that's all that matters to them.
True. And I think this is a great transition into the section that I've called like the rise of the rumors. And this is a far spread one, because this year has had so many random things pop up as far as like what is happening with the trajectory of Xbox. What the fuck is happening behind the scenes over there? Things from Xbox is getting out of the hardware game all the way to this week. We had Jez Corden report and a quote from, I think, Sarah Bond, I want to say. Don't come to me for your exact things. We're going to just, we're going to breeze over that.
It's called the rumor mill for a reason.
Exactly. The fucking word on the streets is that the future of Xbox is indicated by the ROG Ally X, the thing that was launched. Basically, look to that console to see what the future of Xbox hardware should be. And what that means for us is that the next Xbox will be pricey as fuck and will essentially be more along the lines of a pre-built PC, where you will have
premium
access.
Product.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. You'll have access to your Xbox library, Xbox Game Pass, perhaps disc-based games. Who knows? But what is certain is that you will also have access to other storefronts and launchers, which seems fucking insane to me.
Best Buy.
Yeah, really. But
I don't know if you've been to a Best Buy. It's like literally just bought lots on a
for sure.
like a store floor. Like it's just like everything's here. But heck, yeah, this is where your friends are, your neighbors. Like play your games here so they can see what you're doing.
For sure. It's fucking madness. And I think what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to position it as this Xbox console is the place where you can play the most variety of games, because you can play your Xbox games, you can play PlayStation games via Steam, you can play free games that you've claimed from the Epic Game Store, you could use the NVIDIA GeForce Now to stream games outside of Game Pass if you so desire. It's going to give you the widest variety of home console gaming availability, I guess, which is, again, fucking insane. Absolutely insane. What do you guys make of this? Do you think that this is a good pivot from Microsoft? Again, we're buying into speculation here, but
I'm the name of the game curious because I think more than ever, you got 3 video game industries. Like we have whatever Nintendo's doing, you got whatever Xbox is doing, you got whatever PlayStation's doing. It all 3 of them are fucking just, well, maybe not Nintendo as much, but Xbox and PlayStation are just literally throwing to see what sticks. I feel like that's been like the constant with everybody the last 5 years. And I just don't know what's stable. And I think everyone's just trying to figure out what the thing is stable for them. And I think for Xbox, this is probably the most stable thing longevity wise for Xbox as a brand and like as a company that is bringing entertainment to the gamers. This might be the way they do it. It sucks that they've had to cut as much as they have, but who hasn't? They've cut more than most, but still, like, I think this makes sense.
Yeah,
for them.
It does make sense to me in a way. I don't necessarily trust them to implement it correctly based on recent events, but like it only makes sense. Like I said, my Xbox is my PC right now anyway. So lean on that more. It's a little clunky, but like I'm used to using a Steam storefront, so I don't mind having like a Xbox landing page, like, or a mode on my PC where I can put into an Xbox mode, like Steam Big Picture mode or something, you know? But at the same time, like I could see them still wanting to have some kind of hardware because they do have at least some percentage of home console, you know, market share. So I could see them not wanting to lose that completely and just say like, okay, we're just an app on your computer now. So I understand wanting to like brand, basically they just want to make a PC that's like Xbox branded. It does make sense kind of, but again, like how are they going to market that? How are they going to brand that? It's probably going to be too expensive. Like, again, you could just do a PC for cheaper.
But I wonder if it will be cheaper for developers to get their game on said storefront. Like, I see that maybe being a positive for like indie studios, not being bought by and owned by Microsoft, but for smaller developers that we see. I mean, shit, look at the Steam store. It has all kinds of interesting things on it. And so does Nintendo. Weird stuff on the store. So I just don't know what that creates for developers to have their game somewhere else other than just Steam. Can I be on the front page on Xbox, even though I'm on Steam too? Like, I'm just curious how this impacts developers, because like, here's me coming into this conversation not knowing how games are made for real, like, and obviously it seems like everyone's taking a contract job and you're doing some work and then you're moving on to the next thing, but like, stability wise, like, I don't know how I can make money as a game developer because there's just so many different avenues to do that. And of course, if I was an indie studio, I would want the least expensive way to get my game in front of people. So like get their hands on my controller to play my game, or their controller, not mine. You know what I mean?
100%.
One issue that you reminded me of is like, from like a AAA, it's not as huge of a deal, but from like a mid-level AA, single A, or even indie, one advantage of consoles, like if you're going to do Switch, you're going to do PlayStation, is like it's a known hard set of hardware. That's kind of the advantage of developing on a console. So for troubleshooting reasons, like it's a lot simpler where like you know that this is the processor that's in it, this is the graphics card, this is the power supply, this is the motherboard. Whereas when you get complicated with like Microsoft maybe having some weird PC skew thing, and this is the problem I'm having with the Xbox Series S right now, which is like it introduces so many more problems, as far as like this is kind of one of the problems with like Android games, because like Android hardware is so diverse, so it's like there's trillions of combinations of hardware and software, and so it would be interesting to see in the future like how mid-level people who don't have as much resources, of course, like Unreal Engine, Unity Engine, they can help troubleshoot some of that, but it might be tricky if the Xbox line becomes more of this like evolving PC that like updates every year, however they do it, you know.
It's messy as fuck. It's the Steam machine all over again. If you guys remember that fucking push where like those things came out and they had such a production delay on getting the hardware out that once it came out, it was overpriced and outdated. And those things were on the market for I think less than a fucking year and sold abysmally. Like maybe the world has adjusted and now it's time and we're gonna get it right this time. But I would say more accurately, Heroic Headgear chatting with their 8-month sub. $1,200 console that's less powerful than its PC counterparts. Let's go. Well put. And then Noah, our stats guy, of course, here with 2025 hardware sales dropped 29% year over year, which means back-to-back fiscal halves with 29% sales drops year over year. So obviously tough times over in the Microsoft
so
fucking
weird
hardware
because
category.
you say like, oh well, why did they raise the price? You know, because they're clearly just price gouging us, nickel and diming us. It's all to protect the shareholders or whatever. But it went down. The shareholder stuff went down because they did that. Are we just like financial geniuses?
I guess so. Maybe they should listen to us.
I mean, look at us.
Yeah, look.
I would say we're
Hot Dog
geniuses.
and Mario in here. So Mario is the CEO of our company.
Wow.
I love that. I love that. We have 2 abysmal stories left. I mean, I would argue one abysmal story, but this one's fresh in everybody's mind. And we don't have to go too far, like too much of a detail into it because we've covered it on this very podcast and Spotlight. I'm sure you guys talked about it on JK Games, and everyone in the world has reported on the 50% increase for Game Pass Ultimate going from $19.99 to $29.99 effective fucking immediately. Basically, by the end of the year, everyone will be paying this price. Truly insane times. The value proposition of Game Pass is drastically decreased, you know, with this price increase. I think the more entertaining thing to talk about and to speculate on is the announcement that happened on this past Friday, where we have Halo Campaign Evolved, the flagship Microsoft baby, our first party system seller, is officially coming to PlayStation, and not just Halo Campaign Evolved coming to PlayStation. I believe the lead director of that game, or at least one of the producers of that game, wearing a PlayStation shirt on stage, announcing this game and saying the future of Halo is on PlayStation. Fucking wild. Jerica, what do you make of this?
We were just waiting for it to happen. It's not surprising. I mean, I feel like PlayStation, I can't speak to Nintendo, but I know like at least this generation PS5 is like, you know, at least more than half of probably market share for hardware sales, if I'm not mistaken. Like they have sold way more units. I feel like PS5 actually has done really fucking well despite, you know, coming out during COVID times or right before it. So like, why wouldn't you want your games on the console that's in most of the households?
Yeah.
I mean, if they're speaking to the points we've been making tonight, like, hell yeah, it needs to be everywhere.
It does just feel like somewhat of a final nail in the coffin of like, the writing's been on the wall. We've been pivoting towards it. We've seen franchise after franchise make its way over to multi-platform, over to PC, over to PlayStation now with like, you got your Gears, you have your Forza, even games like Indiana Jones that comes out for Xbox initially have that kind of a console exclusive window and then end up on PlayStation as well. But now to see it at its, grandest scale, it feels like we are in uncharted fucking territory of a console manufacturer, a first party console manufacturer dipping their toe this far into third party development for other consoles. And it just feels strange. Josh, what do you got on this?
It's pretty wild. And you're probably familiar too. There's been a constant rumor that will never go away of Game Pass coming to Switch. And so that's been like for like years and years. Game Pass coming to Switch, Game Pass coming to Switch.
It's coming.
And so, but it is like you said, it's so weird to see it'd be like, I don't know, the little kid me would be shocked. Halo on PlayStation. Are you kidding me? Wearing the PlayStation shirt? Oh my gosh. It's pretty surprising. Again, it makes sense because that's what Sega did, right? They're like, forget this. We'll just put all of our software like everywhere. They just dipped out on all hardware, even though Dreamcast was superior.
Dreamcast was great. Yes.
Great. But the money is in the software. It's in Game Pass. It's in the subscription. So it does make sense. And it's almost more surprising that Sony is like, I guess not letting them, but like licensing it, I suppose, like licensing for PlayStation. It doesn't surprise me Microsoft would be willing to do it. It surprises me Sony is willing to do it.
I think they're in the similar spot. I think they understand who does what in the space and how do we survive, which I know it sounds crazy. Like, how does Microsoft survive? How does Xbox survive more specifically? Because I'm like, I don't know how much of a chunk and like, what is it worth having Xbox around for Microsoft? That's what I'm curious about. And I don't have that answer, so I'm not going to speak to it. But I think it is not really the nail in the coffin, but literally the way that these games continue to get made is they can be on everything.
Well, what better way to end this podcast than with the reading of a document? GameStop declares the console war's over. Where?
Hey,
I'm not doing it.
It's declared.
We cut the ribbon.
Truly fucking
like
wild.
The George Bush, the war on terror.
That's right.
Cut the ribbon.
Need someone whispering to George Bush,
Oh my God. We're truly living in a terrifying timeline. Thank you so much to my panelists today. Can I call you guys panelists? Is that weird? That was weird.
Yeah. I don't know.
I've always wanted to be a panelist. That's the first time someone's called me a panelist, so made my night.
Congratulations. I've been your podcast moderator, Jacob Twitching. Jerica and Josh, thank you so much for joining me today. We have a ton of stuff coming up, some fun things as we kind of pivot out of the spooky season. We get back to our regularly scheduled programming. Things will get funky over the next couple months at Drop In, Drop Out as we roll into the end of the year. We'll have a couple very normal weeks. And then for the holiday season, we have so much planned for you. So many fun things coming up, so many special episodes and bonus drops and unique things that I think is going to make this time of year our first holiday season together as a group. As we approach kind of our 1 year anniversary in early 2026, I think it's going to make this holiday season the best months to be a part of Drop In, Drop Out. I'm really, really excited to share with the community everything that we're working on behind the scenes because it's very exciting stuff. Excellent podcast today. I appreciate everybody in the chat hanging out with us. We love to see it. Keep an eye out for more dispatch coverage over here from Cayman and Patrick, as well as Josh, Kayla, and Jerica over on the JK Games podcast on Mondays. Be on the lookout for a Cognitive Clips video essay. Be on the lookout for me playing Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection all fucking weekend. Shout out to all of you. Let's wave at the camera until the podcast ends.